I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts.
Well, hello, everybody. Everybody all having fun with the dancing and just like grooving around to the music. Hello, hello. I'm Erin Reed from Erin Reed Makes, and thank you so much for being part of the summit. Usually I'm behind the scenes helping all of the other speakers, but I'm front and centered right now because I did have a class for the Cricket Card Summit. So just as a refresher of what my class was, because it is live today, this is the class that we did. It's the Rainbow of Christmas Cards. Now, I gave the file so you could cut out the tree. So you could use the tree as the tree. So that's this one. So this is like the piece that was in here, got mismatched. But there was also a portion where you could do like a filigree tree. So you could cut out and have all the pieces cut out of it, or you could use the inside pieces and lay it over top. So there's a lot of different elements to this, but it's also a really good card that you could use if you have a difference. So let's say you had a stocking or you had like an ornament shape. So you can use files that you already have on hand on top of this free one, because you do get this for free. Make sure you use the code on my website to download it for free, because it is normally a purchased item on my store, but because you're part of the summit, you get it included. So that's kind of fun. There was a question I already saw it pop up, and it says techniques for blending. So I did show a couple of different techniques in the video. The first one is make sure you have an ink that is good for blending. So you could do, if you're trying to do blending inks, blending alcohol markers is a whole other category. So I'm not going to get into that because that's not what this class was about. But if you're doing ink blending, getting a quality ink that is good for blending. So for instance, ones that are really good for Well, I have a couple of favorites. My all-time favorite, which is what I use for blending all the time, are the Catherine Pooler inks. And these are the ones that I used on my card here. And she has a plethora of amazing inks. These are just some of the ones that I used, and they are fantastic. Why I love these inks is because it's on a foam pad, so you can really get your blending brush in there, really nice, or your dauber, depending on what you're wanting to use. And then two, the quality of the ink allows it to blend, and it's a nice, good saturated color. Some of the other really good inks for blending would be the Tim Holtz. You could use the Distressed or the Iron Oxides. Those are both fantastic. I have Wendy Vici has a line of inks. They're on, instead of being a foam pad, they're on a felt pad. So you don't get that squishy factor. I like the squishy factor. I'm a very tactile person. But her inks are fabulous as well. And I believe Simon Hurley's inks, I've never tried them. Oh, I've tried one, sorry. And those are pretty good. So try it out, see what you have already, and you might find that they're fantastic. There are some ink brands that are no longer in existence, but they probably work great. For instance, one of them was called Clearbox, and they had a color box inks. They were really cool. They were on a foam pad, very similar to Catherine Pooler's, and they're very saturated. And they were fantastic for blending, but unfortunately they've gone out of business, but I still have them. And so I will use them, not on camera because you can't purchase them anymore. So take a look at the inks you already have in your stash to see if they're going to function. Some of my inks don't go very well. Like I have a bunch that are from Close to My Heart. They're not very blendable. They don't work well. They come out very splotchy just because the type of ink that they are. So a good dye ink is what you're looking for. Now, tools. I have a couple of different tools that I use, and I did use both of them in the video. One of them is my blending brushes. So these little bad boys here, if you can tell, I have a oodles and oodles. I like to keep color families. So even though this one's like a light purple, but I also have little tags that go on them so I can tell what the colors are. And they're just a nice wide variety. I got all of these. I like that, okay, blue goes with blue, and so forth. I also have some that are black, but I put like a teal on there. And I got all of these blending brushes from, oops, that one's falling out of its space, from Amazon. And it was like a 20 pack for $10 or something like that. I did put the link. So when you go to all of the speaker pages, there's a link for the supplies. So that's where all of the supplies that I used on my cards are all available there. There is lots of the companies have blending brushes now. Everybody has got their version of these things, but they order them from the same place that you'd get them on Amazon. So I have no problems. I don't buy stamps or dies because they've designed those, but this is a tool, a little different, but you're more than welcome to buy them from any of your favorite stamping companies because they have them as well. The other one I use, and these ones are beauty brushes. They look like funny looking little mushrooms. And I did use this on the video as well. And I've just started using these. They just have a different action. Instead of blending, you're pouncing because they're called pouncers. So they have a different kind of a feel to it. So instead of blending in a circular motion, you're pouncing. And so you can pounce one color on top of another to get your saturations. So then it's all just about what tool you're using, pouncer or a blending, and then playing. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. The quality of the ink does matter in terms of the quality of how well they blend together. And you want to be cautious about blending colors that don't make sense, so you don't make mud, unless mud is what you're going for. So that's just, a scenario there. So hopefully that answered that question. There was another question I saw down the line. All right, so here we go. Want to know what card base? I tend to make my cards. So Barbara had a quick question about what size did I use, 5x7. I tend to not make 5x7s because it's a waste of paper in my mind. I go through I make a lot of cards, and I'm sure you all do as well. And so I want to get the best bang for my buck in my card making. And on a normal sheet of paper, so here we have a normal sheet of paper. If I cut this right in half, so this is an 8.5 by 11. And if I slice this right in half, this makes two what's called A2 size cards in the United States. If you're from a different country, they're called different things. I don't know why there's not a standard for that. To me, that drives me bonkers. So when I open up my cards, and you can see right here, so this is just your standard. And I use the Nina cardstock, and it's the one that's got the boxes on it. And I use it for everything. So see how this is one half, and then this would be the other half. So I like making this as well A2 size card. It's also, if you look at the dimensions, when it's folded, it is 4¼ by 5½. And I feel like it gives me a really good quality size card. It's not overly big, but you can totally make them bigger. But if I did a 5 by 7, I'm don't have enough like I have extra strips of paper and I feel like I waste enough paper, but this way I can get 2 card bases and I'm good. And then I, have all the other elements that go on top, but you could size this file to go onto a 5 by 7 if you want. You can make, that's the beauty of Cricut, right? You can size it to be bigger or smaller, however you wish. So great question. All right, let's see what else there is for questions. I'm just looking over here. Anyone know what song this is? I don't. I know that she probably paid for the royalty on this song because there's a ton of different ways that you can add music to all of your videos and stuff. So she's paid for the royalty on this one. The name of the song, I'm not sure. I'd love to know too. Okay, see if there's any other questions. Okay, here we go. What's the best way for a beginner to get into ink blending? I don't have any supplies to do this. So the blending brushes, you can get a pack of blending brushes that are pretty inexpensive, like $10 on Amazon. That's a great way to get started, is get the right tool and then pick up a couple of inks. So, if you see a deal for them, or maybe a friend of yours has them. So if you're liking the idea of ink blending, and I've fallen in love with it. I feel like it's probably the best bang for my buck for how pretty it looks, but the ease of how easy it is. And it really does have this wow factor to it when you're ink blending, which I think is so cool. So pick up a good couple of inks. Catherine Pooler has these big ones, but she also has these little minis that are about half the price. So if you pick up, let's say, I always I like rainbow because then I have options, but let's say you wanted to pick up your favorite color's blue. I would pick up a couple of shades of blue and maybe a green or a purple to go with that. Think of maybe a card design that you are interested in, and those are the colors that you're picking up. You could go to a big box craft store and pick up some cheap ink, see if it works, but cheap ink doesn't always work the best. So if you're gonna be like, this is what I wanna try, it's ink. You're going to be able to stamp with it. You're going to be able to do other stuff with it. Go for the better stuff from the get-go. And then if you enjoy it, you've only bought a couple of them so far, then you can, buy more if that's what you're wanting. And you can always look for deals and sales. And there's lots of good deals and sales at scrapbook.com because they carry Catherine Pooler inks as well. All right. Any other questions we got going on? Lots of good questions so far. Great technique in my class. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're most welcome for the VIP bonus. And there was an extra bonus that I gave everybody, not just the card class, but there was another bonus on top of that I gave everybody as well. Okay, so can you use colored cardstock for all of the cards, or do you need to use ink blending? You could totally use colored cardstock. So for these 2 cards, I did the colored cardstock. So if you did not like the ink blending, I did stripes and I did cut circles, right? So that's that option. So for this tree, what you could do, because it's got the white on top, instead of doing the ink blending for the colors, you could cut the tree out of a color of cardstock. You could cut it out of purple. You could cut it out of blue. You could cut it out of whatever. Same with this one. You could cut that out of a color of cardstock, and it's just a single color of the tree. Or you could cut a few trees out and mishmash them together by like cutting sections and kind of reblending them together. For this one, because we use the tree as the topper, you could just do a colored cardstock or a patterned paper in the background and put the white tree on top that you then stamp. And then for this one, these 2, again, when you're cutting these out, you could cut these ones out of just a single color cardstock or a pattern paper. So yes, the answer is absolutely. You could totally do all of these cards without doing ink blending, which is why I showed these 2 variations. But just substitute, instead of seeing color on here, cut it out of a color. Don't color it out of white and then add color, or put a color behind this instead of white. You could do a pattern paper in the background. So there's lots of options to that as well. So hopefully that answered that question for you. Can I use pastels for blending or gel crayons? So you probably could. So I know like Faber-Castell has those that look like little lipstick tubes, and they have a color, they're a pigmented color, they're very thick. You would probably have to water them down just a tiny bit just to try to get them to work. The best thing is try it. There's gel crayons, see if that works. What I would be hesitant to do though is, and I'm very picky because I use my supplies a lot, is that if I had a set of ink blenders that were very specific to my ink. So for instance, I use these with my Catherine Pooler inks, and I use them with Tim Holtz. I'm not picky about the brand of ink as long as they're all the same type of ink, but I have a whole set of ink blenders that I use for sublimation, and that's a whole different type of ink. So I wouldn't use these blending brushes for my, if I was going to try, let's say the Faber-Castell, the gelatos. I wouldn't use those if I was going to use a gel crayon. I would stay away from that because they're two very different types of mediums, and I don't want to mess up my brush because I don't clean my brushes. I don't clean them at all because it's just that's the only ink that's on there. It's the only color. I don't mix the colors together. So if there's still color left on it from last time, great. It's just more color that's going to make it easier for me to blend, but it's worth trying. And here's a tip. If you don't want to go out and buy the blending brushes, if that's just too much of a purchase and you already have something, you can always use a little bit of felt. So some of the blending brushes, the really original OG versions that Tim Holtz came out with, it was a little handle and it had a felt. Some people still use them and they're great, but you can also just take a little square of felt, kind of fold it up and use that as a blender. It's not as user-friendly, but you can do that to see if it works, to see if you like it. And you're not wasting a whole brush that you bought. You're testing it on something else first and seeing if you like that concept. Or an old toothbrush. You could always try an old toothbrush, or not an old toothbrush, but a cheapy toothbrush. That's pretty inexpensive. You could try that. All right. All right. See if there's any other questions. Yes, I love that. So scraps of cardstock. This is a great technique for using all those scraps of cardstock. You could, instead of doing, colored cardstock back here, you could do pattern paper in the background and you could cut circles. You could have fun with this. You could do squares, circles, stars, just random shapes. That would be kind of fun too. Very mosaic-y looking. There's lots of options to this technique to use what you already have, which is the best part. I love using my stash. There's such a satisfying feeling when you use up something that you've bought, like a whole pack of pattern paper. You're like, that's the last one. I used it all. My money was well spent. Anybody else get a satisfaction from that? It's a very big deal. Oh my goodness. So somebody's saying they have the finger sponges. So there are the finger sponges. Yes, I actually have them down there. I personally am not a fan of those because I have found that the felt on those sponges, or like the felt daubers that are out there, they tend to rip. I'm too aggressive. That's my problem. I am very hard-handed and I will break those. Like the tip will rip off and it's a problem. And so those are not a good fit for me because they're not user-friendly for my type of aggressiveness in my blending. But the blending brushes, I can get in there and like push it right down and I'm not ripping because I've used these things to death and they are the best fit for me. Now, somebody else might be like, I don't like the blending brushes because I like the daubers better. So you're going to have to do a little bit of trial and error. But I've also found like the pouncers, because you're just pouncing up and down, I'm not turning it. So my aggressiveness is just how hard I push down and I'm not damaging it at all. I just get more ink and I get a bigger circle. So these two things work best for me. But there are other stuff. They just don't work for me as well. I can make them work, but I tend to break them. So, I guess I'm trying to get I use my creativity as my way of dealing with stress. And so my frustration sometimes comes out in my creativity. So I tend to go a little on that. Either I'm just a really strong person and I don't realize how strong I am. That could be a possibility. Not that I'm strong, but I don't realize like how much I'm into it. Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. When adding bling, is there a science to where you put them, or is it just random to make your card pop? I only put bling on the one, so I just did the one little dot. Well, no, I put it on the eye. But I know some people put bling. So my rule when it comes to putting any kind of addition to a card, whether it be a sequin, a bling, if you're going to add flowers, rule of odds. So single, one looks funny, I will say that. A pair sometimes looks good, but if all else fails, go with 3, 5, or 7. And if you scatter it all across the page, I don't have a card in front of me. That would be a good example. I'm trying to look for, no, I don't have anything. If you try to like scatter all of the elements all over the card and you go in the, like you try to like scatterbursted, it looks funny. So keep it closer to the main focal point of the card. So if you've got a stamped image or you've got an element that's cut out, kind of cluster around it and go on a diagonal. So like 2 on this side and 3 on this side, or 3 on this side and 2 on this side. So that's how you would arrange it. And don't put them like too close together. You'd want to, like if I was going to put a card on here, if I was going to put one, I would do, like, let's say I was doing around the tree. I would go like 1, 2, 3, 4, unless you were trying to do ornaments, but let's assume it's not a tree, that's an ornament. You could add elements on either side of this. I would go like 1, 2, and then like 1, 2, 3, kind of hit that diagonal. You could go a little closer, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So if you're trying to go on either side of the actual image on the screen or on the card, you could do it that way. Otherwise, it looks, if you try to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like looks off funky and it does not look pleasing to the eye. I also like placing, like if you've got confetti or something, you could place that on there and go, does that look good or does that look funny? And you can play around with it before you glue it down. So that's another option as well. All right, cheap ink. Yeah, cheap ink does not blend well. It's the quality of the ink. If you've got bad ink, you could be working your darndest to try to get it to blend and it will not do it. So the quality of the ink does make a difference in how good it looks. Absolutely. And I've been so frustrated with some of the inks because it's the perfect color and I really want to use it and it looks like crap. So quality of the ink does. And so I end up throwing that part away or I cover it up with something because it just doesn't look right comparatively to the other inks that do look better. So yeah, ink makes all the difference. So when blending, do I use a certain type of paper? I use the same white cardstock for everything, which is the Nina white cardstock. It's the 100, I have it right here. I always get asked this question. So let me pull out the bad boy. Let me show you. I use this for everything. I use this for my stamping, my coloring, my ink blending, my card bases. I cut this on the Cricuts. I buy it in the reams. It's like 20 bucks. I know there's better quality paper out there, but this is my inexpensive way to do everything that I want to do. And that's what I did with these cards. I use this paper for the cards and I use it for all the cards I use whenever I make videos on my channel. It is my one-stop shop. So this is my one. I know people say that there is some other, cardstocks that are better and they like them better, but I got this on Amazon and I want to say this entire ream is 20 bucks. And there is, 250 sheets in here? This thing lasts me forever. So if I was just doing card bases, this is 500 cards bases. That's it. This is 110-pound cardstock. So that's what I use. Hope that answers that question. I get asked that one a lot. Yeah, I try not to, pattern paper, other colored cardstock. It's whatever I happen to be sent or find or get a good deal on. Some are better than others. I have a whole stack of paper. You can see it right there. That some of that stuff is 20 years old. And I'm like, if it's the right color, I'm going to figure out a way to use it. So sometimes it's just if you're punching it or you're using it as a background, it doesn't matter. But I do get if you're wanting to ink blend or use your Copic markers, or I have Olos as well, like any of the alcohol-based markers. If I want to, I even very lightly watercolor on this, very, very, very delicately. But I have watercolored on this as well, on the Nina paper. All right, what else we got? Okay, here we go. So suggestion, find a brand demonstrator and look for a card class they'll host. Oh, that's a good way to go at. Yeah. So but some people don't have that around where you're at, but it tends to be most of the card demonstrators that are out there are trying to either push Close to My Heart or Stampin' Up. And there's nothing wrong with those, but you're not going to get the other brands that are out there because unless there is like a local craft shop that happens to have a class that comes in, that's a possibility. But there are some virtual classes. Like I had a retreat that I did a while ago and we did Catherine Pooler inks. That was one of the classes we did. So you got to play with that and that was part of the kit that was purchased. So there are classes out there and it was in person and I also hosted a virtual version. So just take a look out there. Catherine Pooler also does events as well. So if you're really wanting to try it and you want to have like a kit that goes with it and classes and the whole thing to help you go through all that, they do exist. So that's a good way to go around it too. All right. See what else. Your local Michaels has classes. Yes. So there are classes at Michaels as well. They only use the products they sell in the store. Makes sense. So so they're going to pull, if they're going to do any kind of ink blending class, it's going to be the Tim Holtz ink. So his Distress or his Oxides, which are totally phenomenal. There are a few other inks they sometimes carry. It just depends, but those ones tend to be the mainstays. So, make sure you give a thumbs up. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. All right, still scrolling down. Oh, here's another question. All right, if you were stranded, I saw that question last time and I had an answer for it. And I am such science geek that I'm like scissors. Scissors would be my thing because I could craft with it if I needed to, but I could also be functional on a deserted island and actually use them as a tool. So if I needed to cut down something or open something, I could use it as actual scissors or as a knife. So I went total technical on that and thought, okay, what would be something that would be useful versus, but scissors are fantastic. I use scissors all the time in my crafting. So that would be the one thing that it would translate over for sure. Because I could build stuff with it and I could be creative with it because I could cut stuff and then I could use it to, scissors, hands down. I know that's the boring answer, but it's what would work for me. I know I'm the boring person in that respect, but it works. All right, just looking to see. I'm still scrolling. I haven't gotten to the bottom. I'm just kind of trying to slowly scrolling down here. What's the next event that I am doing? So I don't have any events that I am hosting, but I have 2 events that I'm going on. One is in March and one is in April. So I'm going to Creativation. So Creativation is the big trade show that is huge in our industry. So a lot of the big craft companies are there, along with all the fine art companies. It's a blend of everybody together. And so I have gone to this trade show since 2017. Been there every year. I film live. So if you want to see the latest and greatest and the demos and all the amazing people that are there, I film live and I have some recorded videos. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be towards the end of March and I'll be leading up to that. So watch me on my channel. You can catch all the latest, all the new stuff. I go to classes while I'm there. It's not open to the public. It's only if you're part of the organization. And I go there as a creative professional. I'm also teaching a workshop there. I'm doing live video because, I do live video all the time. So I am teaching a workshop at that. And the other event, this is a fun one. Again, I'm not hosting, but I'm attending as an attendee, but I will be doing some filming there as well, is Go Wild. So Go Wild is all about planners. Anybody else a planner person? I love planners. I tend to hoard them and not use them as much as I like to collect all this stuff, but I think I love planners. And it's in Dallas and I live in Austin. So it's an easy drive up. I'm taking a weekend. Yes, it's a work trip, quote unquote, but I'm also going as a fangirl of all things planners. So, I'm going to have fun. So those are the things. Other stuff is in the pipeline. I can't announce anything yet, but there is other things happening. But those are the 2 that are for sure. Like I've booked tickets, hotels, the whole thing. I'm not hosting, but I'm going, but I am going to be filming so you can watch vicariously through me. So there is that. All right, here's another question. Where are we at in time? We only got a couple more minutes, so let's just watch our time here. Never had success with transfer tape and paper. Suggestions on if it's pressure or the type of transfer tape. If you're referring to for vinyl, so quality is key. And if you're gonna buy cheap quality transfer tape, then it's not gonna work as well. I have, sitting right here, because I'm doing a project, I'll give you a sneaky peek. It's a video that's actually a short video that's going to be going live today, and I'm almost done filming it. I'm going to be doing that in between this and posting it. So I am putting vinyl on little wooden trees, short video coming today. And I love, quality of vinyl, to make sure that you've got vinyl that will stick. The surface is stickable, so it's not anything that's going to repel the vinyl. And I love their transfer tape. So this is from Style Tech Craft. You can get them in rolls, and this one's got the grid on it. There's a bigger roll. There's one that does not have a grid, and they also sell them in sheets. So if you don't like the roll concept, but you like just one that can fit flat like a sheet of paper, they sell them in lots of different ways. I love my rolls. There's a ton of transfer tape on here, and I have never had a problem transferring from one thing to another with their transfer tape. So it's Style Tech Craft. If you go to any of my projects, any of my videos that have anything to do with vinyl on there, there's a link to take you to go there. It's an affiliate link, so I will heads up all my links if they can be affiliate links. It's how I do all the videos and everything. It's how it funds my career. So I've loved their transfer tape, and I've heard other people comment, because I've done this in some of my retreats in person and virtual. This is the product I send to them, and they're just like, oh my God, I've never realized how easy this stuff is, because they've used something else that didn't work as well. So this, like, if you get it from a cheap store and it's $1, heads up, then it's probably going to be that quality. If you get good quality, it's going to work well. And I will use the same section of transfer tape 10 times before I throw it away until it's completely lost all of its sticky. So it's good quality. So that would be my suggestion to you. All right. My daughter said scissors too. See, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Okay. Live creating. Okay. What is this? Missed your live creating. How do I get back to it? Missed my live creating. Not sure. Anyway, I need to wrap it up because we got some more videos coming right up. So I'm going to tie this up. If you have questions, I will go back and answer them when we are all done. But I am going to just realize that we hit that 30-minute mark and I've gone way too long. So thank you everybody for watching, and I will see everybody's questions on the back end because I'm producing everybody else on the back end for all the speakers. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see everybody on the backside, and I'll be in Facebook and everything too. So thank you, everybody. Don't forget to follow me on all my social media. I'd love to hear from you, and I will check back with all the other questions I'll answer on YouTube in the comment section. So bye.